Aloha, light anchor loves. Well, the doors are officially open for Embodied Temple Wisdom Heart Camp. This is a container that I'm be facilitating throughout the whole deep yin season, and really the theme is about increasing into our temple's capacity for expanded bandwidth, for the light to be anchoring, grounding through, and us stabilizing deeper and deeper levels of embodied presence, such that as we're walking our mission, it's less and less overwhelming because there's enough space and the appropriate structures to keep channeling the information through. The container it's kind of a, I think of like a metronome or pendulum, but it's very similar to yin field motion, where we meet on the full moon and then have a 90-minute one-on-one, and then on the new moon, and then a 35-minute one-on-one. And so we're kind of just have a gentle rhythm. And in our group calls, about half of the group call will be kind of oiling the dial of awareness and landing into our interoceptive direct sensing capacities into the interior volume of the temple, and navigating, discovering, becoming intimate with different geometries that are chosen based on the sky geometries for being very supported to be activated, and having a nice kind of a thawing of frozen aspects around them, so we can actually turn them back on. And then the other half of the group call is like kind of from a deeper level of access to embodied presence, then bringing and bridging into our relational field. So have embodied dialogue, and then also this heart camp is going to be all about us really unpacking and becoming more intimate with the three kind of fundamental elements of our interior temple, like of space, energy, and structure. And so becoming more and more directly intimate with the interplay of those elements. So like space, the access to stillness, our witnessing capacity, the dial of awareness itself. That's, holding also the structures, right? So we have the energy is like the movement, right? The light, the movement, the information that's in motion. And then we have the structures that light is making its way through, which includes our form, our geometry structures, and then also where we've kind of tightened or closed the structure as well. And so our group calls will be literally creating the interior environment in our temples to kind of begin a gentle, trauma-sensitive, thawing environment around those geometries, and in particular the areas within us that have learned to kind of armor up against whatever was challenging. And of course beneath the armoring and oftentimes around the armoring can also be layers of numbness, where things got so overwhelming that we had to really kind of shut off sensitivity to that area. And as we begin the thawing process, more and more areas beneath the armoring will start to be ready to kind of come back online. And that's where in our one-on-ones we're going to be very gently meeting and welcoming those, like meeting yourself deeply, like in those like weakest, most neglected, shamed parts of the self, and being held in just a gentle, attuned space so that those areas are able to be fully met, right? And we just stay there without abandoning or disassociating or judging or projecting, but just staying there. And then with my support helping, that in real time navigation of those elements of space, energy, and structure in the temple to titrate, right? So that we meet these areas in a way that isn't too overwhelming, like we don't choose too much all at once, or we don't close too soon, right? So just really being in that deep alchemizing space of you meeting you on the depth of the inside of your experience, and just incredible self-intimacy and self-meeting and remembrance. And yeah, so that's kind of the metronome of the game. So the timeline is as soon as you join, you will receive a 1 hour and 15 minute pre-recorded, just a gentle kind of intro somatic meeting, clearing a couple of the perceptual lenses, playing around with a couple of perceptual lens capacities to meet your interior, meeting some of the basic structures of the temple. If you joined me for the Lion's Gate access back in August, you might see yourself in that recording. And my invitation is, even if you were there live, or even if you were one of the several people who were following the recordings, please meet yourself from your new place again, fully engaged in your sacred place where you won't be disturbed, so that you can meet yourself even deeper into these structures. So that's the first thing that happens when you sign up. And there's also an early bird thing that will happen on October 20th if you sign up by the 19th. And that is actually a double bonus. If you completed that 1 hour, 15 minute video, you can also join for an early bird special call on the full moon in Aries, and also have a 55-minute bonus one-on-one. I'll talk about that in a minute. But otherwise, if you join after that, that's fine. The doors are open to Heart Camp until November 4th, and then they close. And then on November 11th, 11/11 is when I officially send our synchronized, everybody gets it at the same time, group email, where there's a second somatic guided deep dive where everybody again does in their own sacred space by themselves. And then after the 11th, we'll have each person will receive their first 35-minute one-on-one. And then we'll do our first deep dive. And then after everybody's had their deep dive, their first two, we're in our temples, then we are ready to meet in time for eclipse season. So our first group call, we'll all get to see each other in the same place at the same time, those who can make the live call, on November 19th. And that's when the whole rhythm begins. So then after November 19th, when we do those powerful geometries, the eclipse season impacts us for the next 6 months. So we'll be really deeply embodied, working on what we need to work on, and then our 90-minute deep dive, and then solar eclipse, and then our 35-minute deep dive. And that goes all the way until March. So you'll be covered all the way through the solstice energies, deep into yin season, where we are just stabilizing at deeper and deeper levels of embodied presence, as more and more of the armoring is thawing. It's almost like the little freezers inside of our bodies that were holding the tension, for so long, for decades for most of us. It's almost like the body and those processes of our one-on-ones and your thawing and even your own individual work, as you become very masterful at this. It's almost like those freezers in the body are just kind of unplugging, and the body's like taking them apart and recycling the parts, and as the structure becomes more and more liquefied, and we're just being able to stabilize at deeper and deeper levels of embodied light anchoring presence. And then meanwhile, everywhere that the energy of our armoring was, using the electrical activity or electrical energy to keep itself in place, we've got that freed. Plus, we're accessing the specific geometries throughout yin season that are like, we're not just recharging our battery, but we're actually like rewiring the whole storage capacity, the absorption capacity, and the reuse, rebound of energy capacity, all of that. And I'm so glorious and so excited for it. So our group calls there'll be a lot of course, interoceptive embodiment, but elements also of sound. We'll be using gentle sounds and somatic explorations of the shapes of sounds, riding those currents as they go to the specific geometries. Also, very gentle movements. Some will be in lying down, some sitting up, some side sitting or side lying, but just very gentle, some standing, very gentle movements. And and then imagine looking into the eyes of all these people who are just meeting the self at these deeper and deeper levels as we let the masks dissolve. So that's the plan. And you are welcome to go ahead and just submit a PayPal gift to me to join, and just put Heart Camp. You can put Embodied Temple Wisdom Heart Camp in the PayPal memo. And then also, if you're joining before the 19th, give me your time zone and any potential available hours that you would like your 55-minute one-on-one on the 19th and 20th. And I will see if you're one of the first 7 that joins, and and we can do yours on one of those days. We'll do those on that day. Otherwise, we'll schedule it for a little bit later. Or we could do your bonus like way later too. It doesn't have to be in October, but I would love to support you in October, because that full moon, it's like all of these planets that had been retrograde stationing direct, and it's like Aries is taking an aim, and the arrow's gonna go somewhere, right? And if we think about this in terms of like just the trajectory of our life, like where we're going, the geometries on that full moon are helping us to, if we have our attention inside and not going crazy in the projection, which could very well be happening for a lot of people, we can be actually aligning with the geometries that more and more allow embodied discernment of who is taking aim, like which part of me is actually in the driver's seat taking that aim. And we all know, like when 2 airplanes leave a runway, even if they're like 2 degrees off, you go down the distance and they're in very different places. And some of what we'll be doing in our one-on-ones is looking at very specifically where the undigested, unmetabolized armor is. That is like the reference tension patterns around whatever compulsive attraction has one distracted from the alignment of the mission. So where does your attention leak? And there's some sort of a compulsive pull to it. So for some people it's just compulsive, thinking, maybe anxiety or ruminating, or for other people compulsive eating or compulsive whatever it is that you're like, God, I just did that again, and whatever it is, like that's what we can really work on, because that is like one of the main tethers that would be tilting Aries, that Aries arrow, down a path that, and of course, like the path that takes is like setting us up then for the eclipse season, which then impacts us the next 6 months. So that's the plan. You can submit, the amounts to commit would be, if you want to do the whole thing all at once, you can do 22-22 to 33-33, whatever feels aligned for you in that range. And if you want to do, 2 payments and do half of that, divine alignment 11-11 a couple of times, or up to whatever 1777, or if you want to split it up into other payments, that's fine too, like 4 555s or 5 444s would work perfectly. And just remember to put your 19th and 20th schedule in there in your time zone, so that I can get you in for your 55-minute one-on-one if you're an early bird. And we'll also schedule all of your other sessions, of course, right away too. Yay! Thank you so much for watching this, and I'm just super excited to see who's ready for this deep level of work together, and meeting each other in those really deep, tender, yet powerful places as light anchors. So much love.